Tjitze, I imagine there are quite a few people listening out there and people in the world generally who've never been to a healer like yourself, who maybe have always, whenever they've had illness or disease, consulted their doctor, their GP, or gone to hospital or something of that nature. Why would a client come to you? I mean, what sort of thing would you give to someone who has an illness or disease? How and what techniques do you use? How would you treat them differently?
That question, Glenn, will take me a couple of days to answer.
I'll give you 5 minutes.
Okay, 5 minutes. Basically, people come for absolutely any reason. They can, in the vaguest sense of the word, may feel discontented with their life. They may feel discontented with their relationship, with their marriage, with their job, with any aspect or aspects of their life. And then come with the question, how can I deal with this? How can I improve this? What is it that blocks me from moving forward, from making the change, from shifting, etc., etc. And then that block, well, however they block the manifestation of what they wish to achieve in life, is so depending again on the individual, on the individual's programming, on the individual life purpose. So there is no strict formula then of how I work. At the same time, people also very much come for physical ailments and illnesses. From basically somebody who's had a broken leg and wishes to have the healing of their broken leg speed up, which is very simple, basically. Or people with very serious illnesses who have had a message from their medical doctor saying, well, sorry, there's nothing much we can do, you've got 3 more months to live at maximum, and that's it. So
you're like sometimes as a last resort, is that what you're saying?
Often as a last resort.
But that's not what you want, presumably.
That's not what I want, but if that's how and when the client comes to me, then
so be it.
Then so be it, exactly. And I deal with it at that moment in the best way I can. Absolutely. And then also, if a client comes with that kind of message, okay, the medical profession has given up on me, what can I do? Then we start to explore that. We start to explore, first and foremost, one of the questions I asked him, are you scared? And it might be an obvious question, and our viewers might think, well, of course people are scared. But not everybody is always scared. But to explore whatever has not been explored then by the medical profession is very important. Again, what you said in an earlier part of the interview, explore the emotion behind it, explore the mindset, explore the spiritual connection or disconnection. Like what also I wrote in one of my publications, that this one woman from the Netherlands came for treatments with a very serious illness, and during the healing, her mother, who had been dead for 20, 30 years, or longer at the moment, 40 years or whatever, her mother came in spirit, yeah, and I sensed it and I see that and don't see the physical features of such a spirit being, but I sense the significant relationship of that spirit with the client. So then during treatment I asked the client, how is your connection with your mother? You keep it a very simple open question, not directly saying, well, your mother has just come here, blah blah. No, just how is your connection with your mother, or how? And then she said, oh well, my mother died of cancer, and oh God, and it was horrible, and I looked after her when I was in the beginning of my 20s, and it was horrendous, and always thought it would end up in the same way. And then this whole kind of story comes out. And then at some point the client said something like, well, I sense so much light in the room. I said, yeah, that's your mother coming here. Ah, and then of course the emotions coming. And then the emotions coming. And then there's such a release happening, which is just absolutely phenomenal, which is the grieving for the mother, the grieving of the late teenage, beginning 20s life that my client at that moment, all these decades ago, had not been able to live because of the illness of her mother. Yeah, the joy of reconnecting with the mother in a totally unexpected way, in a totally unexpected place, in a totally unexpected manner. Yeah. And the ecstasy that comes through that. So there's this crying and laughing and giggling and everything that happens at the same time. And that's the beauty of healing. Because there is no set way or set formula how to heal people. Everybody does it in their own way. And that is fascinating. That keeps me on my toes, because I can't work according to a certain formula quite often. And it keeps my job very interesting because it's never boring.
So it's not just physical illness in a sense, is it? I mean, you could deal with, as I understand it, people who've suffered trauma, people who've suffered abuse as a child, is that right?
Yeah,
I mean, even, quite traumatic things in their life
Absolutely.
that have left a mark,
Yeah.
you would say, presumably on the energy field, but on the whole person.
Yeah. Yeah.
And what sort of techniques do you use to address those sort of things?
If you
Tjitze?
mention, for example, somebody who has suffered abuse, let's then simply say that sexual abuse, yeah. So sexual abuse, the sexual chakra, that energy vortex within our energy system.
That's the second chakra.
This is the second chakra, yeah. So the pubic chakra is then distorted, or is filled with fear, or is spinning counterclockwise, so that the energy comes out and doesn't come into the body, yeah, or any other distortion in the chakra, which then can, in the long run, affect the physical health in that area, in the reproductive organs. So it can lead to erectile dysfunction in a man. It can lead to an inability to have orgasms in a woman, whatever other psychosomatic symptoms there can be, yeah. And one of the techniques then I can use is to restructure the full second chakra, all the 7 levels of the aura of the chakra, which is basically a pretty simple technique which I teach in the Body's Light course. But also what is very important with abuse, for example, is to work on the energetic relational cord with the abuser, which is still implanted, whether the client has been aware of it or not, and most likely haven't been aware of it, and most likely don't want to be aware of it, yeah. But as soon as, with the relational cord in the second chakra, as soon as you had sexual intimacy with somebody else, you have a relational cord in your second chakra with that person. So also with an abuser. Yeah. So therefore, when somebody comes with abuse issues, or we discover through the healing process that there are abuse issues which the client may not have been aware of, stuffed away in the cupboard, yeah, then I will most definitely work on the relational cord with the abuser. And there is the title of this New Age book, and the title is Cut the Cords That Bind. Yeah. So that speaks about these relational cords, but the title is so misleading. Hence, I've never read the book either, because I find the title so misleading. Cut the cords that bind. The cords don't need cutting, because cords, like the cords with your parents, with your grandparents, with your children, they have a purpose for them as well as for you.
Yes.
Yeah. They shouldn't be cut willy-nilly. That is totally disrespectful of the decades, if not centuries, if not millennia of incarnational connection between the two individuals. So the only time where I really remove a cord, and don't even cut it, I remove it, is when there is abuse. Because that is a sexual connection, hence also an energetic connection, against the client's will and not in accordance to love. Yeah. Therefore, at such a moment, when somebody comes with abuse issues, I work on a razor cord and it quietly, very gently remove the cord and connect with the abuser, whether the abuser is still alive or not, and ask them to take the cord so that they can, the client can be liberated. And often, when I perform such a technique and the client just lies there on the back and they're not aware of what I'm doing, I tell them that afterwards, not beforehand, otherwise they might sometimes freak out. Bless them. Then quite often, as soon as I take the cord out of the second chakra, there's a whole spasm and movement or a burst of emotions or all of the above coming through the whole client's energy field and the physical system. And it is just such a liberating thing to experience and to see.
How important is it to, I think you call it balancing the energy field before you actually go into the deeper healing, if I can put it that way? Because that seems to be something that Barbara talks about quite a lot.
Basically, there's the basic chelation, where we start.
Can you just say briefly what chelation you're going to? Sorry.
Stop interrupting me. There's the basic chelation, which is a very simple, down-to-earth energy healing, starting at the feet and moving over the various joints of the legs and the various chakras of the client, and ending up the shoulders or the temples. And
this is to run energy through the body.
This is indeed to run energy through the body. I run energy through the body, and my physical hands and my energetic hands are deeply connected with the client's body. And that basically allows the first step of merging the energy field of healer and client.
Right.
Yeah, that first and foremost. So there's an energetic connection starts to happening, and an energetic trust starts to build up, which is so important. And it starts to remove and soften the first energy blocks the client holds in the aura or in the chakras. And it starts to slowly expand the aura a little bit more. So basically, therefore, before we do any specific other healing techniques, the aura is more prepared to receive the healing techniques. It's more open for it. It's more, more open to receiving. And that is important. Otherwise, the client can, beknown or unbeknown to the client can indeed start to resist the healing sometimes. Although they might often not really be aware of it. So simply opening up so that the receiving of the energy field can be more effective.
A lot of spiritual teachers talk about the way in which emotional blockages can affect us. Presumably you see these as well in the energy field. And how important is it to address those? Because as I understand it, what you do is like you're in effect removing the blockages or attempting to remove the blockages before they go into a place where they become illness or disease. Is that right?
Yeah, in that way, because if our energy body is totally healthy and totally in balance and totally vibrant, it is very unlikely that we get any illness or disease, which is so important.
Can you say that again? I think that is important.
That if our energy body, our aura is healthy and clear and clean and expanded, it basically can prevent us from getting any disease.
Right.
So energetically, if we are pure, then indeed hardly any illness comes to us.
So if we come to you for aura maintenance, if I can put it that
absolutely.
way, then we should never get ill. Is that right?
That may well be.
Yeah. Unless.
But there's less chance of disease.
Yeah.
So imagine that, Jen. What's your name?
Glenn. I'm glad you remember.
Yeah, after you told me. Glenn, imagine that the NHS, which is always struggles with its funding,
right,
is always exceeding costs. If the NHS would supply funds for every citizen of the UK to have one energy healing a month,
wow,
how would that affect the NHS budget?
right.
Yeah.
I hope people from the NHS are listening.
Yeah, but really.
Yeah.
Of
sure.
course, that is prevention is the best cure, is a wonderful English saying. But of course, if you would put that into practice on such a fundamental level for the whole population, how would that affect illness and disease? Because at the same time, when people start to experience these kind of healing techniques and they feel any kind of movement, any kind of shift, any kind of improvement, they also start to look after their own health better. Because they start to respect the subtlety of the health body.
Right.
And when they start to respect the subtlety of the health body more, they also start to more and more have the inclination to look after themselves better. So they start to eat better. They start to exercise more. They start to do different breathing technique. They might start yoga, tai chi, whatever else. Any kind of health regime.
Fits in much more easily to their situation. Yeah. You said earlier about 95% of illness or disease being sort of psychomatic, and whether that's true or not, that doesn't matter, but just as a starting point. What about toxins? We're told a lot by the world, indeed by spiritual teachers, by the medical profession and others, about the importance of detoxification, and that toxins are in our body, the air pollution and all the other pollutions. What actually happens, and how do you address toxins, Tjitze? Is it that the toxins can only, if you like, have a negative effect, and I'm using the word negative in a general sense, if the field is actually allowing them in, as it were, to have that effect? So is it like an immune system related situation? So, because we all know that many people go out into the street and have no problems at all with hay fever or whatever it is, with dust. So, but how does that work on an energetic level?
Indeed, as you say, if the immune system is strong enough, and it includes then very much the healthy aura, as I said earlier, but also a very healthy, strong first chakra, root chakra, because the root chakra governs our general immune system. So we can look after that really well, after our first chakra and an immune system, then all these influences that will come to us, which nobody basically escapes from in our modern day world, they don't really get to us because we have a really healthy, strong system that can cope with it. And it's the same with cancer cells. We all have cancer cells in our body.
Right.
Yeah, we all have cancer cells in the body. It's part of our energetic and physical makeup, our cellular makeup, I should say. In some people, these cancer cells get multiplied up to a way that the immune system can no longer cope with it. In other people, they simply exist in the body and never get ignited into any kind of cancer. So why is that?
So cancer cells are not the cause of cancer, in a sense.
Cancer cells are not the cause of cancer. What is the cause of cancer is a weakening of the immune system. And that is the essence, I think, of healing, whether it is medical profession healing or energetic healing or whatever kind. We need to keep the immune system strong. So we need to live in an environment where we don't get bombarded by stuff that really knocks us out of shape, knocks us out of balance, out of sync. And we need to eat and drink totally healthily as much as possible. So less sugar, mostly organic, grow your own sprouts, go to the garden and stick these nettles in a teapot and make tea out of them. All these kind of things. Yeah?
Beautiful. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And that's our responsibility to ourselves.
I want to come on later to what I call some bigger picture questions, and I will come back to the immune system because I think that's actually very important. But how much is what you're saying lifestyle related? We create our own problems. Do you believe that we create our own reality? So, we adopt this lifestyle, we, the royal we, to create, in a sense, our illness and disease without, because it's like we don't know any better. Is that putting it too simplistically?
Or we don't want to know any better.
Okay.
We don't want to know any better because most people strive for comfort.
Yes.
Whatever that comfort may mean. that then suddenly some kind of serious illness pops up. Well, that's bad luck. Yeah.
So
But
people
they-
still
they-
believe it's an accident that they
Yeah,
get ill.
Yeah, most of the time. Where the comfort is on the sofa with the crisps and the can of beer and the TV spouting all the negative stuff towards us. Yeah? That's what's called comfort. But that is simply illness-inducing behavior, which 90% of the population does, if not 99%. Yeah? But people know that they should exercise. People know that all the sugar is not good for them.
Louise Hay said something very interesting in her book, I think You Can Heal Your Life. She said that whenever clients came to her, whatever the presenting problem was, whether it was emotional, physical, whatever the situation, to her it always came down to one thing: self-love.
Mm-hmm.
Now, tell us, in your experience, how people who criticize themselves, who judge themselves, how that affects not only our propensity to get ill and have disease, but also the healing process when you come to give them a healing, let's say.
Gosh, Glenn, how would I answer that one? Because, yes, if you don't love yourself, you treat yourself badly. You have this feeling that you don't deserve. Yeah, you don't deserve any atom or molecule of oxygen that you breathe in, so you limit your breath even. Yeah, you get out of your way to give space for others to do what they want to do, because what they do is much more important than what you, undeserved soul, do. Yeah, so all these kind of little snippets of behavior, the client needs to become aware of that they have that behavior. Awareness is key here. Yeah, and then slowly, bit by bit, how can you change that perception? How can you change that that attitude towards yourself? And just look at yourself as a little baby that you are. The little baby that you were 25, 35, 55, 75 years ago. Yeah? Does a baby not deserve? Yeah? Because the non-deserving is simply the conditioning by parents, teachers, etc., etc. Yeah? There's nothing. People were not born with not deserving. Absolutely not.
And they weren't born with self-criticism, presumably either.
No, that comes through society, through upbringing, through doing the normal thing. And if you don't do the normal thing, then you're a bit strange, and then you can expect to be treated abnormally.
And you say in your book, I think, which is quite fascinating, I think this is also important to know as well, and I'd like you to expand upon it a little bit, that when you're actually in a healing situation with a client there on the table, and, you know, it's important, as I understand it, for that client to not be in that place where, you know, doom and gloom, and I'm thinking this, and I should have done that, and I wish I hadn't, you know, done this, because now I wouldn't be ill, and so on and so forth. And how do you help someone to break through that, to enable you, if you like, as I understand it, please correct me if I'm wrong, to actually create the right environment then for the healing to take effect? Is that right?
And then I come back to what you said before, Glenn, and what Louise Hay said, that love is the key. Yeah. So I basically shower them with love.
Wow,
yeah,
beautiful.
Unconditional love, so that they feel loved, they feel respected, they feel accepted for who and what they are.
Whatever their symptoms and whatever their
the
problem.
symptoms and whatever the problem, and that is my role, and my responsibility, and that is the responsibility of every healer of whatever kind of technique. Yeah. If a client comes in and I cannot love that client unconditionally at the moment when they lie there, there is something in me that is being triggered by that client, or the client's attitude the client has said, or whatever else, that stops me from being in that space of love. So then I need to look at myself. And it is a long time ago, really, and I can say that with hand on heart, a long time ago, that there has been a client coming into my room who said, "Oh my God, what a weirdo! Can't work with that one." Yeah, absolutely. Just as soon as I hear the background of the people, the story, the programming, the suffering, bless them. Let's see if we can
Beautiful.
ignite the love there. And then miracles can happen. Then patterns can change around. Then the first glimmer of light can occur. And then what Leonard Cohen sings so beautifully, there's a crack in everything. That's where the light comes in. Yeah?
Beautiful.
And that crack, we need to get into that crack and slowly erode it through love.
You said something to me which I thought was very interesting a week or so ago when we first met, and you said about you as the healer being like a mirror for the client. We were talking about this, and I'll come on to it in the sense of who heals whom, if you like. Is there a, what is healing ultimately? But tell us a little bit about that, because I think I'm sensing that that's what you're saying here. And if you can, please correct me if I'm wrong, if you can be in this place of love, then presumably the mirror is two-way. Then the heart can open in the patient to enable him or her then to allow what needs to be done. Is that too simplistic? Is that?
It is simplistic, but it's the essence of what's happening.
Yeah.
And a lot of symptoms, a lot of happenings, a lot of phenomena are woven around that essence, but basically that is the essence of it, so that the client then opens to love and can approach him or herself from that place of love. Yeah? And that can be a first experience, a first conscious experience of such a wave of self-love coming through, and that can invoke a miracle in the client at such a moment.
And in that sense, the client is then healing him or herself.
Totally,
is that right?
Totally. All they need to do is support the client in opening up to the possibility of, and then encourage that, name it, so the client becomes aware of it. And quite often I ask the client then verbally to repeat that, and repeat it again, and repeat it again as a sort of mantra, as a sort of affirmation. Because a lot of these issues of guilt and shame and self-confidence and the lack thereof are stored in the third chakra,
right.
solar plexus, which is the mental chakra, so the mind, the mindset, and basically mantras and affirmations heal on the third level of the aura and also on the third chakra,
right.
the mental chakra. So because the mental concepts undermining the misconcepts of our upbringing. So that's how basically I quite often get people to repeat verbally in their mind the positive things that they feel about themselves and the positive things that they sense about themselves. So to counterbalance the negative input, the negative program they have experienced at some point in their life. And that heals the third chakra.
So this epitomizes again, I think you would say, would you, the importance of faith healing in the sense of having faith in the healing.
Oh, totally.
Yeah. Do you think that's part of the challenge, if you like, that people like yourself and other healers like yourself face? That there is this element of, maybe because it's unknown and uncertain for a lot of people, that there is this element of lack of faith. And it's only when they actually come to experience it and to work with you, to be there with you and to feel it and to see the results, that they can actually embrace it. Is that a fair comment?
Yeah. And some people can get it from watching a movie or a video clip or a YouTube thingy or from reading a book. But it is more effective if they experience it themselves in their body, in a direct conscious experience where they can really fully sense how that actually works and what it feels like in their system to have that kind of phenomenon moving through them. Because theory is one thing, but to experience theory is much more impactful, whatever the word is. Yeah.
And even though it may be, quite a significant disease, to feel some improvement is also what you're aiming to do.
Absolutely.
Is that right?
Absolutely. So, for example, when people have got severe side effects of certain medical procedures, like unable to walk, for example, like that, because of
Like the example you mentioned in your book,
in-
which
in-
we'll
in-
come
yeah,
on to.
yeah, yeah, indeed. Then, with that client, for example, I simply worked on the lower levels of the aura around her legs.
Just to clarify, because she came in, sorry
In
for
a
people
wheel-
watching, she came in a wheelchair,
Yeah, yeah,
so
yeah.
please continue, yeah.
She came in a wheelchair, and I worked on lower levels of the aura of her legs to basically take away the negative effect, the side effects of the medical procedure that she'd gone through in the Netherlands.
Right.
And basically, after that she could walk.
Mm.
And I used it for about half an hour. After that she could walk. She arrived in a wheelchair. She stayed for about 3 or 4 days in this area, had a whole series of sessions. And on the last day, I took her and her husband for a walk. On the last day, she could walk at least 8 miles along the riverbank.
Wow.
Yeah, up and down the hills. Yeah, and she arrived in a wheelchair.
If that's not proof of the pudding, then what is, eh?
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
wonderful.
Yeah.
Again, Tjitze, for the moment, thank you very much.
And thank you.
Thank you.
It remains a pleasure.
Thank you.